Aloha colleagues, welcome to OC 6005, Scope and Methods of Research. The title of this presentation is Research Project Explained, and in this presentation I'm going to go over all the required elements for your research project proposal that's due at the end of the semester. The actual assignment document is attached to this week's Blackboard page, so make sure that you do go ahead and download that. It may be helpful to have a copy of that in front of you as we go through this presentation. So essentially, I provide you with a scenario, and you are to design a research proposal based on the scenario. So what exactly does that mean? When you write a research proposal, you're basically addressing the question, how would you solve these organizational problems? So I'd like to note that you will not be collecting data, but you will be writing a results and discussion / conclusion section as if your propositions were supported. And I'll go into more detail on each of these questions later on in the presentation. Let's begin with going over the scenario and the background information that I provide you. So you are an independent external OD consultant, and you've been approached by a client, Shelby Fernandez, who's asked for your help. Shelby is the president of Sedona, a small software development firm located in the southwestern United States. Shelby has 15 years of experience managing software development firms in Silicon Valley and was subsequently hired 8 months ago because of her excellent performance record. So Sedona is a relatively new startup. It's 5 years old and has experienced explosive growth during the first 3 years of existence, and growth has since leveled off. There are 5 major issues that you and Shelby have identified. The first one, turnover has increased from 18% annually 3 years ago to 27% currently in the software development team. The second issue, there are serious conflicts between the software development team and the quality assurance team. Third, productivity measures have steadily deteriorated since the director of product development was hired 28 months ago. The fourth issue, customer satisfaction surveys suggest that key software features promised are not always delivered on time and within specifications. And the final issue, it's apparent that the director of product development is barely on speaking terms with the director of business development. So for this project, I'm asking students to choose 2 of these issues to address in your proposal. You're welcome to choose more. However, there is a page limit for this project, so keep that in mind when you do choose your 2 issues. There are several sections that you're going to address in your proposal. I'm going to go over those now. You will have a title page, an abstract of a maximum of 100 words, an introduction section, followed by your literature review. And in your literature review, you will discuss the theoretical or conceptual framework, your research question or questions. You will also identify some guiding questions or propositions that you would be utilizing to guide your research and data collection. The next section, methods, is the most detailed section for this research proposal. Part of that is because this is a methods class. The other part of that is having a detailed methods section actually does make your research stronger. And if you consider all of these sections, you're more likely to identify any issues, pitfalls, or landmines that you would want to address in your study. So first off, You will discuss the participant and organization characteristics, the sources of data, identification and selection, measurements, procedures, and methods of analysis. The next section, results, you will write up the results as if your guiding questions or propositions are positive. The next section, discussion and conclusions, you're going to give me a brief summary of what your quote findings are. Again, that's assuming that your propositions were positive. And you're also going to tell me the limitations to your study and areas for future research. The final section is your full reference page following the APA format style. There are a few things that we do need to discuss, some other parameters for this project. So the industry standards are such that the text, the main body of your research project, has a 20-page maximum. So this does not include your title page, the abstract, your references, or appendices, should you include any appendices. It should be double-spaced and either Times New Roman in 12-point font or Calibri 11-point font. The abstract of 100 words. I know that I'm a bit of a stickler on this one just because it is difficult to summarize your entire research in 100 words. So it's good to get into the practice of being able to synthesize and write a clear yet concise abstract. Also, for this paper, we will be following the APA formatting style. That is also the industry standard for organization development as well as management research. So make sure you are citing and referencing correctly. Here is the point distribution for your research proposal. I have broken down each section of the research proposal, and I've identified the possible points for that section. You can see that there are a lot of sections, but it does add up to 200 points. So this is a very significant portion of your overall grade. You'll see that the points range anywhere from 10 to 20 points per section. So make sure as we go through the grading rubric, which is next in the presentation, that you're paying really close attention to the items that I'm looking for and what items would constitute getting full points or earning full points in that particular category. So the grading rubric in its totality is included in the document that's attached to our Blackboard page, but I've grouped them into smaller sections for this presentation. So the first section is your title and abstract. This section is worth a possible 10 points. And I'm going to go through the strong work column for all of the sections. That way you can understand the depth of each of these sections. So for this particular section, the title and abstract are informative, succinct, and offer sufficiently specific details about the constructs, the context, and the proposed methods of the study. The next section, the introduction, the point value does bump up here to a possible 20 points. So the introduction presents a significant research problem related to the assignment scenario. It articulates clear, reasonable research questions given the purpose, design, and methods of your proposed study. All constructs and variables have been appropriately defined. Guiding questions and/or propositions are clearly supported from the research and theoretical literature. The next portion of the research proposal pertains to the literature review. Both of these sections are worth a possible 20 points. The first section deals with how your literature review is organized. So in order to fall into the strong work category, your structure is intuitive and sufficiently inclusive of important constructs and variables of the proposed study. So essentially, you're going to be telling me all the constructs that pertain to the two problems or issues that you chose from the scenario. Following that, in your literature review, the narrative integrates critical and logical details from peer-reviewed research literature. So I'm not looking for trade magazines or newspaper articles, but I am looking for peer-reviewed scholarly journal articles to support your research. Each key construct and variable is grounded in the literature, and attention is given to different perspectives. This will be the first of 2 slides on our methods section. You'll notice that each section that has anything pertaining to methods is worth a possible 20 points. So overall, the methods portion of this paper is worth a total of 100 points. So starting with the research design, in order to earn 16 to 20 points, which constitutes strong work, the purpose, questions, and design are supportive and coherent. Attention has been given to eliminating alternative explanations and controlling for extraneous variables. Appropriate and important limitations and assumptions have been clearly stated. The next section pertains to participant and organization characteristics. So what I mean by that is the description of the context and population was meaningful, including both quantitative and qualitative description. So for this portion, I'm looking for you to describe a bit of the scenario to me. So the description of the context, so the context of the scenario, and the population is essentially your organization of Sedona. Your sample may be a little bit different depending on which issues you decided to address. So the sampling process was reasonable to recruit a representative sample of the population. That could be the product quality team, it could be the product development team. That depends all on the issues that you choose to address. And attention was given to controlling for extraneous factors. The next section, instruments or measurements. So I'm looking for a description of the instruments and observation protocols, including the purpose statements, type and number of items, and types of scores. So for instruments and measurements, this is talking about if you're utilizing survey research, what instrument did you use? Did you use an established measure? Are you having to develop your own survey questions and pilot testing those? I'm looking for a description here. So there's 2 more sections pertaining to methods. The first one, procedures. So the procedures were thorough, manageable, coherent, and powerful for generating valid and reliable data. So I am looking for you to describe to me in a step-by-step process what you would do to collect the data here. So essentially your procedures were chronological and replicable, so meaning it was clear enough that I could follow your steps and do it again, with clear distinctions between researcher and participant actions. So what would you do and what would you have the participants do? Clear and reasonable strategies were presented for seeking permissions and for the ethical treatment of human subjects. So this would be where you would integrate the information presented in the IRB slideshow, as well as information that you learned in the NIH Protecting Human Research Subjects training course. The final section of methods pertains to data analysis. So I'm looking for a description and a discussion of the analytical methods, making sure that they were specific, clear, and appropriate given your research questions, your research design, and scale of measurement and type of distribution. The last portion of your research proposal has 4 sections that I'm looking for, but I do want to point out that the point value associated with each of these sections does go down, so the maximum possible points that you can earn in each of these sections is 10 points. So I am looking for a results section. It's going to be a small section, but you will be writing up the results of your research with the assumption that your research propositions were supported, that your interventions were positive, and there was essentially a positive return on investment. The next section, the discussion and conclusion section, I'm looking for a thorough discussion of your research findings and how it connects to the client and the organization in the scenario. Any alternative explanations for the results are presented and analyzed from multiple perspectives. All limitations and many future research directions are included. The final major portion of your paper is your reference list. I'm looking for all the references to be fully cited, so the full citation on the reference list, also including key sources. So what I mean by that is if you're looking at, say, the construct of job satisfaction, there are some seminal works on job satisfaction that I will be looking for you to identify in your research. Also, any in-text citations will be utilized correctly, and those will be following the APA formatting style, which brings us to the final section that I'll be assessing, which is grammar and APA style. So I'm looking for students to consistently apply assignment and APA guidelines, especially in regards to citations, references, headings, page numbers, and running headers. So the major question that you're probably asking yourself is, how do I get started, and what can I begin working on right away? This is not the type of project that you want to wait until the end of the semester to begin working on, but you can begin working on bits and pieces now, and you can assemble them throughout the semester. So first off, you can begin by choosing 2 of those issues identified in the scenario. And once you've done that, you can begin by defining and operationalizing your constructs. At that point, you can also go ahead and write up a few paragraphs on protecting human subjects. So that would include information from the IRB and informed consent. So all things that were presented in the last few weeks of class. And at that point, you can begin your literature search. I recommend beginning with the library databases, so you can access those through HPU Pipeline. The first database that I would go to is Business Source Complete. That's where I begin all my research lit searches. You might also consider Sage Premier and Emerald as alternative databases. I would recommend searching all of them just to see if there's any research articles that were not included. Then I also recommend that you do a Google Scholar search. Make sure that you have Pipeline open in one of your tabs before you go to Google Scholar. That will allow Google Scholar to authenticate you as an HPU student, but that will also allow Google Scholar to present you with PDF files of articles that we have access to through our library partnerships with other institutions. So it's in your best interest to make sure that you do have that pipeline page open before you do a Google Scholar search. And at that point, that's where you read, and do more reading. So you'll be reading a lot of research articles. You may start to outline some things that you want to discuss in your literature review. I also recommend that you utilize those article review forms, that template that is available on our Unit 1 page, and that can help you organize all your sources and help you when you are searching for specific things in articles that you may have previously read. So if there are any questions, please make sure that you send me an email. If you email me a question and I think it's something that the entire class would be interested in, I will go ahead and post it as an announcement. I'll remove your name, of course, and just say that one of your colleagues asked this question, and then everyone can benefit from the answer. Without further ado, I hope you have a great week, and again, if you have any questions, please contact me. Mahalo.